40 years ago, Volkswagen launched the 1979 Rabbit GTI in Canada, 4 years before it was available in the US. With its 78 horsepower, 1.5-liter K-Jetronic engine, it ended up being seriously underpowered compared to the Euro-spec Golf GTI, which produced 109 horsepower. Luckily, this wide discrepancy isn't a problem with the Mark 7 Golf. Our spotlight is on this 2019 Volkswagen Golf GTI Rabbit. It has the 7-speed DSG and the driver assistance package, making this vehicle $37,000 Canadian. It is a very expensive vehicle, and it is much more expensive than the GLI 35th Anniversary Edition we just featured. But a lot of journalists absolutely love this car. We're going to be a little bit more brutally honest with it. We're going to go over absolutely everything you need to know if you're in the market for it, and going over everything that's good and bad about this $37,000 hot hatchback. Now, I think over the last few years of doing test drive and the 10 years that we've been doing Perpetual Radio, I've come to show that I am a very honest person when it comes to doing reviews. It is very easy to become infatuated with a car like this. It's so beautiful, looks great in this Cornflower Blue color, that you kind of forget that you're supposed to be talking about what's good and bad about a car like this, because really, if all I were to do is talk about how great it is, I'm just marketing for Volkswagen Canada. But there are some things that I really want to talk about, which is why I'm saying that this is a brutally honest review, because I find that a lot of automotive journalists, a lot of influencers out there will take a car like this and talk nonstop about how great it is. And it is a great car, but it's not the best car. There are a lot of other cars out there that are better priced. There are a lot of other cars out there that have better build qualities. So I want to make sure that you get a full, thorough review of this vehicle, and it's not just me talking about how great the vehicle is, because there is a lot to go over, and if you're a true Volkswagen enthusiast, you're probably not going to like this video. Now, there are 3 trims for the GTI sold here in Canada. The base GTI starts at $30,845 Canadian. That's almost $12,000 less than the Golf R. Now, our Rabbit GTI is right in the middle. It starts at $33,995 Canadian. Add on $1,300 for the 7-speed dual clutch transmission and $1,750 for the driver assistant package plus. That's a lot of money. That's $37,000 and change for a vehicle that fits into the compact segment, which usually these vehicles top at around $29,000. Now, that driver assistance package adds a few things like adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitoring, lane assist, rear cross traffic alert, and forward autonomous braking, along with high beam assist and park assist. So you do get some stuff for that. It is almost double the price that you can get on the GLI for essentially the same kit. And that's another thing that we're going to talk about in a minute, how this really compares price-wise and feature-wise to the GLI that we just featured a couple months ago. I mentioned that this is Cornflower Blue. It really looks amazing, especially in person. There's only a few colors for the Rabbit GTI here in Canada, and this is an exclusive color on the Rabbit. So any of these cars you see on the road will be the Rabbit, and I've seen half a dozen of them in the last couple weeks just because really it is a nice color. People are looking to get this one. And if you want to get something like the Tornado Red, which is a pretty common color for GTIs over the last 40 years, you have to go with either the Autobahn, the Golf R, or the GLI. Now, this Rabbit also comes with a number of features over the base GTI. You have dynamic chassis control, which you can't get on the other 2 models in the GTI lineup, so this is definitely the one to get if you want a more enthusiast-grade experience. You also have a 9-speaker Fender audio system, dynamic headlights with cornering lamps, keyless entry, and a push-button start. So if you go to the base GTI, you're not going to get those things. If you go up to the Autobahn, you're going to have a few extra goodies like power seats, navigation, and you're going to lose out on the dynamic chassis control. But keeping all that in mind, again, $30,845 for the base GTI with a 6-speed is still more money than the 2019 Honda Civic Si sedan, which comes with a 6-speed manual and navigation for $29,090 Canadian. So the base GTI is more expensive. This is a lot more expensive, and once we start to look at the GLI, you'll understand why. And since we just featured the GLI 35th Anniversary Edition, it is still fresh in our minds. Now I want to talk about the regular GLI, not the 35th Anniversary Edition, because it compares more in line with what we have here. Now we've configured it online with the DSG that we featured. It would be $33,095 Canadian, add on the $995 driver assistance package, and you're looking at about the same kind of kit you'd get with this Rabbit. However, the GLI has an 8-speaker Beats audio system, so 1 speaker less than this, but it comes with Volkswagen's digital cockpit, ventilated front seats, heated rear seats, leather seats, and a 10-color ambient lighting system. If you compare that with the 2019 Volkswagen Golf GTI Autobahn Edition, which is $39,095 Canadian, you're looking at a $5,205 difference between those two vehicles. That's huge. I mean, a $40,000 Golf, and that's not even the R? I mean, that's getting really expensive here. So personally, the Rabbit makes more sense. Again, another issue that I find with the Rabbit, despite the looks being so great, is Volkswagen's decided to put a very cheap sticker on the back to commemorate that this is a Rabbit instead of a regular GTI. The Gti Badge is nice, it's 3-dimensional, has a red and silver lip around it, but then the Rabbit badge is just a flat red sticker, which wasn't even applied correctly on this specific model. The second B is just off by a little bit to make it look a little weird. It's just a minuscule detail that takes away from the overall experience of this car. And I know it's small, I know it's just a teeny little thing, but you look at the 35th Anniversary GLI and they put the nice badging where the regular GLI badge would go. If they just took the same Rabbit badge that they used decades ago on all the different Rabbit versions they've sold here in Canada, it would look way better. So I would suggest, if you buy this, get some Goo Gone, take off that cheap sticker, go source yourself a Rabbit badge online, whether it's from an actual Rabbit, not the GTI version, but a regular Rabbit, and stick it on there. Or what I would personally do is try to find one that matches the GTI badge, remove the GTI badge carefully, and put the Rabbit in front. So you have Rabbit GTI on the left side and no cheap sticker on the right. So again, just a small, tiny detail that for some reason Volkswagen thought will save a few cents to be able to cheap out this car just enough. Because really, if you're buying this car, you want it to be special, you want it to feel nice. That cheap sticker on the back, I'm just never gonna get over it. But let's jump on the inside now, since we've talked about the differences with the Autobahn and this and versus the GTI, and also how it compares with the Jetta. So I want to go and talk about what's going on in there, and then we will take it on a very lengthy road test to talk about how this car handles, because that's really the redeeming quality. I'm kind of upset about some of the stuff that goes on here as well as the price, but once you get behind the wheel, you forget about it a little bit, obviously, until you take a look at your bank account and realize you've spent $37,000 on a Golf. As of filming this, we've done 2 other versions of the Golf. We had the e-Golf and the Golf All-Track. So this is pretty much the same setup. Again, we've gone over pretty much everything there is to know, but I want to talk about a few of the little things here when it comes to the Rabbit GTI. First off, we have the Clark cloth plaid seats. I think they look nice, might be a little hard to clean them, and honestly when I picked the car up they were a little dirty. I had to do some cleaning on the inside here, but personally I don't mind having cloth seats. It does have a bit of a throwback to some of the older GTIs, very similar interior design to the seating that they've been using for quite some time, so if you do like that look and you prefer having cloth, this is a great option. It is important to note that if you go up to the Autobahn, you do get leather seating, but you can option it for free to downgrade to this. Now there's only 2-way power option for the driver and passenger. It's just the seat back. Everything else is manual. You also have a manual lumbar support. You only get heated seats on this. There's no ventilated seats like we mentioned comes with the GLI. There's no heated steering wheel either, and the rear seats are not heated either. But luckily there are vents in the center for the rear passenger, so you do get a little bit of extra airflow back there that you might find on other compact cars. We find an 8-inch infotainment system. It's pretty much the same thing that we've talked about from other models from Volkswagen. It's not as good as the e-Golf was, but it does get the job done for the most part. There is no navigation. You do have to go up to the Autobahn to get that, but Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are available, so you just plug your phone in. You also have Sirius XM radio. Backup camera is decent quality, pops out of the Volkswagen badge on the back. You also have a screen in the cluster to be able to see small information about the trip computer. That has been something that Volkswagen and Audi have had for a very long time. So it's nothing new there. And the rest of the gauges are analog. We find LED interior lighting, and it helps because the black roof liner with no sunroof doesn't let in any light at all. So it is nice to have LED interior lighting. And then there's really no ambient lighting. Again, something that we mentioned about the GLI. You do have 2 strips of red LEDs that run along the door cards, and that's it. You have footwell lighting, but those are white. You can control those from the computer cluster. but that's pretty much it. And for the most part, everything makes sense in here. It's not a complicated car. It's not a premium car. I know Volkswagen at one point was trying to bring their brand upscale, but everything in here is pretty much hard plastic. You do have a cloth material in the door card area. That's about it. There's really nothing that's leather about it except the steering wheel with the red stitching and the red and leather stitching throughout the gear lever. So that's it for the interior of this car. This is meant to be driven though, and I have been having a lot of fun, and that's why I say that it is one of the redeeming qualities of this vehicle. Despite the fact that it's 37 grand, it is really fun to drive, and I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people really still like these cars, because you get past all of that stuff to be able to get that driving experience. So let's take it on the road now with its 2-liter turbocharged inline-4 engine, the 7-speed dual clutch transmission, and everything else you need to know about the 2019 Rabbit GTI. There's two things that I recommend doing if you purchase a Mark 7 Rabbit GTI. This is something that you should do like immediately after you pull off the dealership lot. Get some Goo Gone, peel off that really cheap Rabbit sticker, and source a much nicer one. We talked about that before. But the second thing you want to do is get rid of the garbage stock tires that come with this car. For some reason, Volkswagen has decided to put a different set of tires on the GTI over something like the GLI that we featured. This car uses Pirelli Cinturato tires. They're green performance according to the manufacturer's website, but I'll tell you right now, they're garbage. One of the main issues that I have is, especially coming from a standstill, if you are in sport mode and basically mashing the throttle, you'll get to about 5,000 RPM and the tires will skip. You'll start to lose traction because there isn't enough grip. Now, if you look at Pirelli's website, they say that it's supposed to mix the best of being eco-friendly with the sportiness of what a Pirelli tire should be. It's not the way it is. Honestly, go and get a nice set of Michelin Pilot Sports for this car. You don't need super sports for this type of vehicle. You could certainly get them if you wanted to. And I mean, if you're going to be holding on to this car for a number of years, you might as well get a good set of tires to keep you stuck to the ground. But whatever you do, get rid of the trash that comes on this. It's embarrassing that they put these tires on this car, but then the GLI has a completely different set. I believe they're Continentals. I took a look at one of the dealerships the other day, and I think it was a set of Continental tires. And I mean, we had the same kind of issue when we did the GLI. You start off from a stop, and the tires skip a little bit up in the higher rev count in first gear. So, I don't know, just get a better set of tires, because you'll see as we do our launch that it really isn't that great. I mean, it doesn't happen every single time. Often when I'm coming from a stop, it will do it, but it depends. I mean, it depends on the environment too, but I'm just telling you, they're not that great. So we're gonna go from a dig here. We're in manual mode, in sport mode. We've turned off the auto stop start system. I hate it. Put your foot down, some turbo lag right there. 100, wow. I mean, it's quick, and that's the thing. If you got rid of these tires, I don't think you're necessarily gonna shave off like 1/10 of a second on the 0 to 100 kilometer time, but it'll just help a little bit, especially if you do notice that wheel skipping. I think today it's just nice temperature out. It's about 20 degrees Celsius. It's sunny. It just rained. So whatever is going on with the road here, it is preventing me from showing you on camera what we've been experiencing over the last 5 or 6 days. But I'm telling you, pretty much every time I start from a stop and I give it that acceleration, I'm having problems at 5,000. But the rest of the car performs really well, and especially with the DSG, I mean, it just pulls, shifts are so smooth, so instant. We talked about it as well when we were doing something like the Golf All-Track, where there is a little bit of that DSG problem at lower speeds. You're coming to a stop and it's like, jitters a little bit. But if you drive it normally, not necessarily fully in sport mode and not necessarily in manual mode the whole time, you should be fine. And that's kind of the problem with this car is, yeah, I complained quite a bit during our walk around in the interior about how expensive it is compared to some of the other vehicles you could buy at this price point. I mean, it is more expensive by quite a bit than the Honda Civic Si. It is more expensive than the Ford Focus ST, but then it is considerably less expensive than the Focus RS and still more affordable than the Civic Type R. But then again, you're going to be going for the Volkswagen Golf R at that point if you're looking at that price range. But the thing that I really can appreciate when I drive this car is just how good it is on the road. Not only is the performance really good, especially if you throw it down a couple gears, it's just got amazing pull for such a small engine. Even though the exhaust sound, it's kind of meh, the car still handles and drives really, really well. And I think that's one of the reasons why people do buy this car despite the higher price tag than something like the Civic Si, just because it does have such a great road feel when you're driving it. It's one of the reasons why I'm struggling so much with this episode, because on the logical side of things, I mean, you just can't afford a car at this price point to be using it really just to beat around town and have fun. I mean, there's just so many other options out there. Not maybe necessarily better, but definitely more affordable. Because, we can all get caught up in the fact that, it's a fun car, it's great, why don't you just buy it? Real people have real monthly payments to make and real bills to pay. So it's just not feasible for everybody to be able to afford this. But when you start to throw it around the corners, you understand why this is such a great car. You can take it into some really tight situations, and it grips really well. And again, if you had better tires, it would be even better. But we'll take it around our little corner here. We're going quite a lot faster than we should in any other car. And I mean, it just hugs it so well. Oh, it's great. Fantastic, man. And that's what the Golf has always been. That's why the GTI has always been this amazing vehicle, even though they came out with the R32 and the Golf R. They've replaced it with something better. But this is still so much fun for what you get out of it. And yeah, it's pricey, but man, oh man, it really is a good mix between the two. If you need something that is super haute performance, you're going to go for the Golf R. But if you want something that you can honestly live with on a daily basis, this is really, really good. That's what I like about it, because you can take it from a launch at a stop sign in a town, and it just goes. There we go. There's some of that traction loss. But then if you really wanted to, you put it back into automatic mode, you change the mode over maybe to eco. Now the exhaust and engine doesn't sound as rough, and coast along having a nice scenic Sunday drive and not have to worry about wasting too much gas, because in eco mode, without having to launch all the time, this car does surprisingly well. We'll talk about it when we do our wrap-up, how well it did on our test loop, and it did really good considering it has quite a bit more power than something like the Golf All-Track that we did. And we'll compare those numbers to the Golf All-Track and the regular Jetta exec line that we feature, because both of those cars have gone through the same 100 kilometer test loop. So I'll let you know how they compare to this during our testing. But that's what's great about it. And then you can throw it back in. I have it actually in custom mode, which should be just sport mode. I turned everything on to sport. You've got the manual shift. And because that DSG is so smooth, I mean, it just basically rev matches where you want to go. And yeah, okay, the exhaust in the engine doesn't sound super great. It's still a 2-liter inline 4. But man, it is good. And I took it on some longer distance driving over the last couple days. And yeah, I mean, I saw my fair share of GTIs and Golf Rs on the road, but there's still a lot of respect for this car within the Volkswagen community, and even outside of the Volkswagen community, just the regular enthusiasts will always appreciate a GTI, even though we all know that there is something much better out there, like Civic Type R, because it still represents something that is relatively affordable, definitely more so in the resale market than it is in the new market. But there are still people who would prefer to buy a near $40,000 Golf instead of buying a much larger vehicle, maybe a vehicle with more power and has more space in it, because there's always going to be a soft spot for these cars. And that's why it is so difficult to do this video, because you can't really look at a GTI from a normal cost perspective. Yeah, the interior here is kind of meh, especially compared to the GLI. You get a lot less features than something like the GLI, but this is still a very special car, and I'm really glad that we've had the chance to be able to drive it. I'm very happy that it came in this Cornflower Blue color, because man, it pops. Even though I've seen a number of them on the road, not with this car, but before having it, I did see a number of them on the road, so it is a popular color to have for the Rabbit. It's just small little things. Like I said, it's going to add more to your cost. Tires, you're going to have to replace those. You're going to have to put on a new badge, which may or may not cost a couple bucks. And at the end of the day, you can have a car that's really near perfect, just not maybe so much on your bank account. Fuel economy was very impressive with the Rabbit GTI. Our 100-kilometer test loop results came in at 6.6 liters per 100 kilometers, or 35.5 US miles per gallon in eco mode. By comparison, the Golf All-Track did 7.3 liters per 100 kilometers, and the Jetta Exec line a magical 5.5 liters per 100 kilometers. We wrapped up our mostly sport mode with manual shift week at 1,098 kilometers and 8.9 liters per 100 kilometers, or 26.5 mpg. Not bad at all for a sport hot hatchback. Now let's talk about our likes and dislikes. The Mark 7 Golf is easily the best looking generation of the Golf, so it's hard not to add that to the top of our list. Overall ride and handling was excellent, giving us plenty of excitement during our week. Fuel economy is also good considering we spent a lot of time ripping around in sport mode, and the option for a 6-speed manual or this 7-speed dual clutch gives buyers choice when it comes to their transmissions. Finally, the Cornflower Blue color is a strong hit for us, although, considering there's only 3 choices available for the 2019 Rabbit GTI, there's a very good chance you'll be spotting others on the road like we have, so being unique might be a little harder. But the Golf GTI wasn't a perfect car for us. Maybe it helps that we haven't experienced the GTI before, giving us a fresh perspective on a car that usually comes with a lot of enthusiasm from its strong fan base. In fact, this outsider's look at the GTI might be a bit of a wake-up call for those who might have forgotten about the reality of owning a car like this. First off, the $37,000 MSRP for this vehicle is crazy given the direct competition from the Civic Si and Focus ST. Rest in peace. At this price point, buyers will already have been looking at cars like the Mercedes A-Class, BMW 2 Series, or Audi A3, and want to opt for the lightly equipped GTI over an entry-level luxury car. We see enough Mark 7 GTI and Golf Rs on the road to know that Volkswagen isn't having any problem selling these cars. But for us, the price point is a tough pill to swallow, given the hard plastic interior, cloth seats, no navigation, no sunroof, and 2 strips of LED interior ambient lighting. We also find the available features pretty limiting on the GTI Rabbit, as a $31,000 Golf Exec line comes with a 12-way power driver seat, leather appointed seating, ambient lighting, satellite navigation, and a panoramic sunroof. If you want the Rabbit, you're stuck with less kit, and the GTI Autobahn is almost $40,000. The cheap sticker on the back of the Rabbit is a pretty big bummer, and a lot of enthusiasts that we've spoken with on social media feel the same way. And finally, the stock Pirelli tires are trash, meaning another cost on top of the already pricey MSRP for enthusiasts to have better grip that should have come from the factory. But let us know what you think about this episode on the Rabbit GTI. Maybe we just don't get it, since we're coming from this from an unbiased perspective. Start your own conversation by leaving a comment below, or add your own opinion to the discussion by replying to someone else's.